the home of the common Joe and the common Sally in the know, even more so than all those media talking heads. Well, how's it going out today, boys and girls in sporting land? This is JPC, and I am the outlaw of college football, and this is the home of the common Joe and the common Sally in the know, even more so than all those media talking heads. Always my favorite part. Want to chop that media snake head off. Now, getting right to it, today's topic, class, is Eddie Ed Orgeron. Eddie Ogre. Where shall he go? Shall he stay at LSU or shall he go? We shall see. I think Scott Woodward is a guy, I may have his name wrong, but I think he's the AD at LSU. He has been known and he has a history of listening to the fans and doing what's best for the fans and for the university as he sees it from a fan's perspective. In my opinion, he done it at Texas A&M. He went out and got Jimbo Fisher. And every stop he's been very successful at getting the coaches that he wants in place. So don't be surprised if Eddie O does go. Ed Orgeron had a little video, not a video, but a press conference where he was questioned about his possible job security. And he responded at first in a way that he should have. He's just like, I plan on being the LSU coach for a very long time, yada, yada, yada. But then he added something at the end because this is what Eddie Ogre does. And he said to the reporter, and I quote, "Let me tell you something. I don't blink for anybody. You hear me? I don't blink for anybody." Oh, yes, you do, Eddie O. You do blink for somebody. You blink for LSU, and you blink for Scott Woodward, and you blink for the people that employ you. If you don't, you'll be blinking your ass on out of there, which is probably what's going to happen, especially if you lose to Florida. You're going to fall below 500, and the wheels are going to be in motion. In my opinion, they should let him ride out the year. I've never been a fan of firing coaches in the middle of the season. It serves no purpose because you really can't go out and get nobody right then. And if you do, it's usually going to cause a lot of scuttlebucket. But the top two candidates, before we get into all these candidates, I'd like to ask you guys and gals to do 4 things for me. Like, share, comment, and subscribe to this channel. Subscriptions are most important. They keep me motivated and keep bringing in those common Joes and Sallys in the know, just like you guys that already know and put us in the know. Now, getting right back to it here. The top 2 candidates that keep popping up in everybody's search, especially USC, for example, is James Franklin and Lane Kiffin. So we'll go ahead and address those 2 real quick. James Franklin has been rumored to be unhappy at Penn State for quite some time. So it would not surprise me if James Franklin does leave and go somewhere after this year, because I don't think Penn State is going to make the playoff after their loss to the Iowa Hawkeyes. But I see James Franklin as more of a California kind of guy. He's got that personality. So if he leaves Penn State, in my opinion, it would probably be for USC. But if he's smart, he would probably want to consider LSU more, because post-COVID has affected this country in so many ways, including sports. And right now, I don't think the state of California, especially with some of their stringent rules in regards to some of the overreactive post-COVID measures, I don't think it's a great place to coach football right now. So, in my opinion, if you want to go somewhere where you can actually win and have undying support, LSU would be the place for James Franklin. Lane Kiffin. Lane Kiffin's issues are a more personal thing. Lane Kiffin is, we all know Lane Kiffin is probably the best offensive play caller in the modern times right now. And in my opinion, Lane Kiffin would be a great coach if he could just get some things under control. Some of the things he says sometimes get him in trouble on Twitter. Not that big of a deal. But then there's the partaking and mingling about with the women folk of the town, which there's nothing wrong with going out and doing that. But when you're married at the time, which he was here at the University of Alabama, and you got an alias like Joey Freshwater. That's almost as bad as Ron Mexico, right? That's something that's going to be an issue at most universities. Now, at LSU, they did have the whole Les Miles sexual scandal stuff situation, so maybe it's not a big deal for LSU. But in my opinion, I think Lane Kiffin's right where he needs to be for right now until he can get that under control and become a more mature coach. I know he's in his 50s, but he still acts like he's in his 20s. So LSU could go out and hire Lane Kiffin, and it would probably work out as long as he could get that stuff under control. So get it under control, Lane, and you could probably go from being a good coach to a great coach. Now, those are the two main candidates that everybody mentions. Now, I would like to mention some other guys that people maybe have mentioned but not mentioned as much. Now, the other guy that a lot of people do mention is Matt Campbell, which I don't think that's a guy that they're going to go after. They may. Never know. But Matt Campbell is the coach at Iowa State, and a lot of people have mentioned him in a lot of coaching searches for the past couple of years. He turned down the Detroit Lions, so people are like, why would he turn down an NFL job like the Detroit Lions and then go somewhere else in college? Well, would you coach the Detroit Lions? I wouldn't. If I was going to go to the NFL and take an NFL job, the first NFL job I took would probably not be the Detroit Lions. It's a big cluster, if you know what I mean there. So that's why some of these NFL jobs are actually worse jobs than college jobs. So Matt Campbell would be a good candidate that Scott Woodward may look at because he's the guy that's been known to go after the fish that people don't think can be caught. Now, the guy that I really like, that's fourth on this list for me, is Billy Napier, the guy at Louisiana. He's already got the landscape down. He's a former Saban pupil, which is always a good pedigree for everybody. He's in the Louisiana area already. As the coach of Louisiana, he's won at a place that's difficult to win, just like James Franklin did at Vanderbilt. And like I mentioned before, he knows the landscape of the South, so he'd be good at recruiting. So he's got a lot going in his favor, and he's becoming a big name very quickly on the national circuits as well. So if LSU's going to grab him, they better grab him now. And like I said, it wouldn't be that big of a transition for him. So I think it's a guy that Scott Woodward probably needs to really consider on the list. Now, another guy that probably people are not thinking about too much is a guy that my podcast partner, Jonathan Lewis, mentioned. By the way, Jonathan Lewis has a podcast called College Football with Jonathan Lewis. Great podcast, very informative, much more stat-driven than mine. But it's a very informative podcast, so check it out. I'll drop that in the description as well. I'll drop a link to his podcast. But Jonathan Lewis give me a good candidate as well, now the box kind of guy. Kyle Whittingham of Utah. I've also thought about him for USC. Never really thought about him for LSU until Jonathan mentioned him. But I've always thought of Kyle Whittingham as being a guy that probably has done all he can do at Utah, and he may be looking for a bigger challenge. And USC could be that. But LSU, as I said before, would be a better overall football job for a coach at this point post-COVID, in my opinion, because of the stringent restrictions in the state of California. So Kyle Whittingham took Utah after Urban Meyer left. Urban Meyer did build him up a little bit for him, but he took him to another level. He took him from being a non-Power 5 school to being a Power 5 school in the Pac-12. Whether you consider the Pac-12 a Power 5 conference at this point or not is irrelevant. He did do that. So, and he beat Alabama in the Sugar Bowl. So the guy can win big. I think he just needs a bigger program. And Kyle Whittingham would be an excellent choice and an excellent guy for Scott Woodward to consider as well. The last guy I want to mention is a guy that a lot of people probably aren't thinking about as well. Actually, I'm going to mention two more. Chris Kleiman at Kansas State is a guy that I've always been high on. He won like 6 or 7, I think it's 7 national championships at North Dakota State. Yes, that's FCS level, but anybody that can win 7 national championships at any level, whether it be Pee Wee, Anniston High School football, or anything, if you win 7 national championships like that, you're a good coach. And he's at Kansas State right now, and they've had moderate success. He's fallen a legend in Bill Snyder, so I think that at Kansas State he will start winning more. He's like I said, he's off and on right now, but like I said, they seem like they're headed in the right direction, and following a legend like Bill Snyder cannot be an easy task, and especially at a mid-card level school like Kansas State. And he's done an excellent job thus far, in my opinion. And he can probably do a lot better in the future. We shall see. But Chris Kleiman is a guy that I would consider if I was Scott Woodward. Now, the last guy I'm going to mention is one of the top assistants that a lot of people have probably mentioned as well. And that's Bill O'Brien, who's the offensive coordinator at Alabama. He was the head coach for the Houston Texans. He was also a head coach at Penn State and took over a situation there that nobody could probably have done a better job at, with the whole Sandusky scandal situation. The fact the NCAA took almost all their scholarships and told their players that they all could transfer out of the program, and some of them did. So the guy knows how to handle adversity. I haven't been a real fan of some of his play calling so far at Alabama, but overall, if you look at the overall picture of Bill O'Brien, he's an excellent candidate to be a head football coach somewhere, and LSU would be a great place for Bill O'Brien. And that's my top 7 candidates to possibly replace Eddie Ogre down at LSU. You guys and gals, tell me what you think. Drop it in the comments section. Let us know what you think. And like, share, comment, and subscribe once again. Get all them Common Joes and Sallys in the know in here. If you guys share it out to your friends, get them on board. And as always, KMCA to all the other teams.